Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of A Handful of Hope. I am so happy and grateful to have Rod with us today, who is a fifth-generation Santa Barbaran who has been writing, directing, and producing original theater works, concerts, films, and benefit events since 1979. His work as a speaker and consultant has taken him around the globe, and he's been honored with local, regional, and national awards for his work as an innovative artist and arts administrator. He currently serves as the board president of the Marjorie Theater for the second time and has produced 10 events for the Luke in the last year, including Melissa Manchester in concert, An Evening with Brad Hall, and Julia Dreyfus in the Mind, Body, and Soul Speaker Series. Rod has written and published 3 editions of The Spirit of the Big Yellow House, is currently working on an autobiographical book, and enjoys being a sculptor, creating works with vintage objects and neons celebrating light and legacy. Rod, welcome, and thank you so much for being here.
Thanks so much. Good to see you, Jesse.
Yeah, you too. And, we were talking beforehand. I was lucky enough to attend a couple of your Mind, Body, Soul events, and I absolutely loved them. The irony of running a series called Mind, Body, Soul at the close and beginning of this year, transitioning to what's going on now, what's that experience been like for you?
Well, it is ironic. I mean, obviously, nobody knew this whole pandemic was coming. But at the time when that series kind of came to my mind in terms of thinking about doing it, it was really a reaction to the division I was feeling in our society due to a lot of political things that were and still are going on in our country. And I was getting kind of sucked into that negativity, and I didn't like it. I didn't like what it did to me. And I thought, the only way I'm out of this black hole is by focusing on positive things, aligning with people that have positive content to share with me and others about how to live our lives more productively, more balanced, more joyful, and bring people together instead of dividing people. So that was what the beginning of Mind, Body, and Soul was, what the genesis was for that series. But ironically, our last event was in February with Noah Ben Shia, and then all of this hit, and so we stopped. Everything stopped in live theater, unfortunately, and we're dark now, which is a very sad and precarious place for us to be at the Marjorie Luke, along with all the other theaters in town. We're all in the same boat. So we're working really hard right now to try to keep the Luke sustained. We're having to cut way back in many, many different areas, but we don't want to lose our staff and have the theater closed, because we want to be ready to welcome people back, because we're all going to need art. We're all going to need to celebrate, to share art face to face, which I think is one of the reasons I do theater and live events, is that there's nothing better than hearing a person's voice and looking in their eyes and hearing what they have to offer, whether it's a story or a song or a theater piece, a dance, whatever. It's that human-to-human contact, which we all now so thrive and miss, because we can't hug each other. We can't break bread together. We can't sit and enjoy a concert together. And so I know when we can, people are going to flock back to, consume the arts. And it dawned on me how in these times when people need food and shelter and medical help, those are the key things. But the arts tend to get kind of swept under the rug as non-essential. And we were talking earlier about the fact that they are so not non-essential. How many people, since we've been locked into our homes, or not locked in, but quarantined into our homes, have not listened to music, have not watched TV or streamed movies or read a book, or made art in themselves to try to keep their balance, their sanity. We rely on the arts much more than we often want to admit or acknowledge. So we kind of take them for granted. So I'm really kind of on a crusade right now to remind people how essential the arts are to our sustainability, to our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health. And that's what Body and Soul was originally. And we recorded some of those events.
Oh, cool.
We're going to be streaming them for free through the Marjorie Luke website and through our newsletters to all of our artists and audience members and donors.
Oh, awesome.
So
You have to send me the
I'm glad
website
to
and
do
I'll
that.
include it on here with everything.
Yeah, yeah.
Rod, one of the things that I've always been so impressed by when attending the theater, attending live events, is how unifying it is for people. It's not like a sports event where one half of the people might be cheering for somebody else and then the other half hates you because you're cheering for who they're not cheering for. But you go to something like that and it's a very unifying thing where you're all kind of cheering for the same thing, which is the production or the speaker or whatever is going on. How critical of a role do you feel that the arts can play in healing a community, healing helping people emerge from this time of shelter in place quarantining, and then really you've already touched on, but I'm hoping we can go deeper and coming back together and finding those common grounds of community and companionship again.
Yeah. Well, in many cases, the arts touch us all uniquely in our own way based on our life experiences. But I mean, I would imagine none of us could name anyone who can't cite a song or a film or some kind of an event arts related that is burned into their memory because it was a high point in their life. It could either be based around a marriage, a relationship, a success, or a revelation or an epiphany or something. But we all, when you hear that song, that one song, and you go, oh, I got to listen to the song.
Yeah.
This is my song.
Yeah.
I have to stop and listen to it. We all have that. So when you're sitting in an audience and everyone is experiencing, even though it might be a different life experience, but when people are having their buttons pushed emotionally and spiritually, and even physically, that whole sensation of goosebumps, which if you're in something really wonderful, there's nothing like goosebumps. It's a real physical thing. I should go and study them sometime because I don't know what the details of what those really are, but I know it's very real. And I know that you can't touch what it is that makes those happen, but what that is art. What that is inspiration, it's hope, it's something that touches our souls in a way that makes us, blossom a bit more. And everybody, again, when you go to consume art, you don't really think about that as you drive into the theater or the concert, but that if it's going to be good, you're going to walk away a little higher, a little lighter, because you just had this glorious experience. And that is healing. That is how the arts heal. That's how the arts save lives. It happens. We see it happen at the Luke all the time, on sometimes the smallest level, to having somebody like Julia Louis-Dreyfus there, getting to interview her on stage was such an amazing experience for me. Her and Brad, and we just had a great conversation, and people still come up to me, months later, go, God, that was such a great evening, and I was so touched by that. I'm like, yes, that's good.
That's awesome.
But that's what I love about the arts, is that they really do touch us, they heal us, they keep us grounded in a really good way.
You'll appreciate this, Rod. I've often and altogether pretty much now stopped calling goosebumps, and I start calling them truth bumps.
I love
call
that.
Truth bumps because it's my way of knowing that whatever I'm experiencing right now is in alignment with my soul. My soul is speaking to me and letting me know, like, hey, this is right where you need to be right now. This is important. Pay attention.
Cool. Oh, I love that. Truth bumps.
Yeah, truth bumps. It's really interesting that you and I were talking offline. The arts has been something that's been around forever. You look at ancient civilizations, and the arts were always a central point of society, right? It was the time when people would come together. It was before we had movie stars. We had Shakespeare and those types of folks, right? Who are really the celebrity and the ones, some of the more celebrated figures of history. And so it's fascinating to me that the arts have been such a foundational piece for the way people have collectively recorded and shared their history, how they've been able to, ultimately our history is a collection of stories, right? And we're passing stories from generation to generation. And that the very fundamental way that we tell our history, we tell our story, we identify ourselves can at some point be deemed non-essential. And that's often the first places that we start to point when we have to make cuts. We wouldn't say, I want you to cut your family history off, but we would say, I want you to cut the way that we share stories and share history. You touched on that briefly a little bit earlier, but I want to just dive a little deeper with it. Talk to me about the essential, non-essential labeling of the arts, and why do you think it's the first one of the first places to go where people want to make cuts, and how can we change that narrative? How can we change the psychology around that?
Because I've been an artist most of my life, and I have worked in the arts, and I continue to be a working artist, it's really difficult for me to try to answer why other people would deem the arts not essential and make cuts. But I see it in education all the time. There's just not enough time in the day, not enough room, because we've got to do the math and the reading and history or whatever. And it's not that those things aren't important, but I think our whole educational system is messed up, our public education system. And in that it doesn't value the different ways that young people learn. We've all, if you look back at when you went to school, there were always kids who were on the periphery, who were just barely making it by because they couldn't sit at a desk for 6 hours a day and do the work everybody else or many other people were doing, because they just can't process it like that. And more I see young people who aren't able to process left-brained Western culture education. But our school system doesn't allow for creativity and for putting them in an environment, in a structure that allows them to thrive the way they can thrive. And ironically, now in my 60s, as I look around, the people I see around me who are very successful are not necessarily college graduates. They're not necessarily people who went to Harvard. Of course, Harvard produces a lot of amazing minds, so nothing against Harvard. But I'm an example of it. I left college after 2 years, and I started a theater company, and everybody went, "Oh my God, good luck, Lathim. Good luck with that one. See, how long is that gonna, So I get it. I totally get it. I mean, I was a good student. I wasn't one of those peripheral people, but I had to do it. And there are most people who are creating art that we all consume are people that have to do it because that's who they are in their DNA. And so why we would say no to people, why we would limit people in terms of being able to express themselves and share work that can impact society is beyond me. It really is. Kids who don't have experiences in arts growing up are not as good at business. They're not as good at working as a team. That ensemble process of working in an orchestra, a band, a theater ensemble, and similarly sports, except sports tend to be a little bit more, gnarly and bloody and sweaty. Yeah. But there is still value to learning how to be a team member, whether you're going to be an attorney or a stockbroker or a dentist or whatever. It gives you skills that are still going to pay off down the road. And so I hope maybe one of the things we learned through this whole pandemic is that we come back and we rethink our priorities. I would hate to see us come back and just, okay, well, we're all back. Let's just go back to status quo. Yeah. Let's go back to polluting the planet. Let's go back to making money, because that's what our goal is. We just want to make money and be successful and, go sit on a yacht somewhere. I hope when we come out of this that we realize that we're an organism on this living organism called Earth. And if we don't start listening to the planet and realizing that it's hosting us, we're not hosting it. And we have messed up this planet so badly, out of greed, out of ignorance. And hopefully we can get back to respecting Mother Earth. I mentioned to you before we started that I do daily walks up into Mission Canyon and walk by the creek, which is beautifully running now, and everything's green and spring is popping out all over the place. It's so beautiful. And everything I look at is talking to me. The rocks are talking to me, the oak trees, the creek, the grass that's growing. It's all like, hey, we're here. And you need to acknowledge us and let us breathe and live and give you a great place to call home. But like our air is cleaning up, our waters are cleaning up because we've stopped all this stuff that's polluting them, or most of it. You know, there was a picture I saw online of the Grand Canal in Venice. Yeah. And it was, I've been to Venice 3 times, and that Grand Canal looks like a sewer. It's awful. It was clear, and there were dolphins swimming up the Grand Canal. No boats, no people, but there were dolphins there. And I just got truth bumps. You know, it was so amazing. And I thought, wow, if that isn't a wake-up call to us. There was somebody else posted recently that in India, you know, the air pollution there was so bad. Now they can actually see the Himalayan mountains from India, and people are like, "Oh my God, look!
Wow,
those are the Himalayas." You know, they've never seen them before. Some people, because the air's been so bad. So think what's happening right now to the planet. Yeah. The planet is like gasping these breaths of like, oh, thank you. You know, I can breathe again. I can function again. So I just really hope people will listen to the planet and be really careful on how we treat. I mean, we're like parasites on a living organism called Earth.
Yeah.
And we usually think about it the other way around, and it's like, no, we're the guests here, and we need to respect our host.
How do we learn to listen more, Rod? That really resonated with me when you said when you're on your walks, everything's talking to you. And I feel like all of us may have this innate understanding that things are speaking to us, but we're so distracted, or we're looking down at our devices, or we're obsessing over what he said, she said, or whatever else is going on in the world, that we're not really present to what's happening right in front of us right now. How do we learn to listen more?
Well, my philosophy, my personal opinion, is that everything around us has a vibration. We're all made up of energy. And so no matter how you want to look at that, whether it's through a religious or a spiritual aspect or just a scientific aspect, everything is energy. And a rock, people will say, well, how do you talk to a rock? Well, I'm telling you, the rocks in Rocky Nook are hollering at us right now. And so the way I tune into that energy, whether it's a tree or a rock or a blossom, is I just be with it. You know, it's like you said, you know, turn off the phone, put it away, leave it at home, and just sit and be with nature. Because nature has huge energy. It has a huge vibration that is a part of, I mean, it's kind of like the lungs of the planet, as is the ocean. And in the same way, if you wanted to kind of listen to another person, you would give them your focus. You would be quiet and invite them to share with you. That's what I do when I'm in nature. I listen to everything around me, and I just get still. And it's like listening to a symphony. It's pretty amazing. It's simple, but yet immensely powerful. And that's part of what gives me this high when I go on my walks. it just fills me up. And it's so easy to go walk through a nature area and just go, yeah, it's nice here, nice trees.
Yeah.
That's nice. But stop and look at those trees. Look at the lichen. Listen to the creek. Watch what the wind does. It moves everything, and it talks to you. And again, like I say, it's all about vibration. It's all about energy. And if you invite it and are willing to listen to it, I promise you, your takeaway will be magical.
Rod, I want to ask one other question and circle back to the arts real quick with it. And I think this parlays in multiple different ways. You mentioned how the arts inspires creativity and how it evokes this different side of us, maybe a different side of our consciousness, maybe that traditional education doesn't necessarily touch on. I'm wondering, how do we inspire creativity in people? Because the reason I ask is I feel like during this season of our lives as a collective that it's interesting, but I don't necessarily believe that the way we did it before, which is head down, charge harder, charge harder, charge harder, is going to work. I feel like the things that are going to be essential for us if we really truly are to grow as a global we, all 8+ billion of us, or however many there are now, we are going to have to be more creative. We're going to have to be more innovative. We are going to have to be really more art-like in the sense of in drawing part from those parts of our brain, those parts of our conscious that we may not normally do, nor do we may not normally consciously think of, because in traditional business, right, it's you come in, you clock in, you're checking off tasks, and then you check out, and you're limiting your scope of that. Or in even relationships, right? Most of our relationships become stagnant, whether romantic or friend, because we're checking off boxes. We're not ingesting that creativity that we once had that really gave life to the relationship. And I feel like the arts are such an never-ending source of creativity. So I'm wondering that, is there a way, as an artist, is there a way to inspire creativity that we can learn, or we can look within ourselves to inspire more creativity in our life?
The first thing that comes to mind is that one of the things we can do collectively is that we can open our hearts. And in the process of opening our hearts and being open to people, if we practice kindness and actually consciously practice the act of kindness, it changes you. It changes your chemistry, I think. I'm not talking from a scientific perspective, but I know it changes me when I have an opportunity to be kind to someone. As I was driving home today from the store, there was this really old woman on the corner with this big thing she was dragging with her cart, and she was trying to cross this busy street, and no one would stop for her. And I could see the frustration building on her face. So of course I stopped, and I waved to her and I said, please, please. And she's like, oh, thank you. That was like, I thought, wow, if everybody just took a moment, and it doesn't have to be any big grandiose thing, but if we all took a moment to open our hearts to be kind, be kind, be kind, it would, I think, shift our ability to be creative, even if we didn't consider ourselves a creative person. Some people say, well, I can't play music. I'm not a singer. I'm not an actor. I'm not a painter. It's like, that's okay. You still have creativity in you. And maybe what you have to give is give of your heart. Because when we give to each other, and when we finally get back out there and actually can do it, face to face, that's when it's the most powerful. But I think it's just a matter of opening our hearts, being kind to one another, and watching what flows out of us. And that can become creativity in itself. That's like making a kind of music, if you will, between people. again, it's an energetic thing, but it impacts the flow of energy. And ultimately, after a domino effect of that, it impacts the whole community. You know, we're seeing people doing a lot of good things for each other right now. It's really healthy. It's really exciting. It's really inspiring. We have to keep doing that. We can't just do that when there's a big problem. We have to do that every day. And it'll change our community. And in business, you know, be kind to each other in business.
Yes.
Open your hearts to your coworkers. You know, don't just clock in. Don't just sit at your desk and punch your computer. You know, check in with people. Be present. Be aware. Be open, and open your heart.
I felt that one. I got truth bumps. I told you that would be my last one. I lied. I want to sneak one other quick 30-second question in. There's people watching from all over the world with this right now, and I want just to give you a few seconds to speak on what can we all do once, even now, but then especially when we're able to start going back out again. What can we all do to support our local arts communities?
Thank you. And you know, what a beautiful opportunity you're giving me and all the other people you're interviewing to say hello to the world. Hello, world. Hang in there. Love you. Take care. Be well. Stay safe. But when we do get out of this, you know, maybe let's remember some of the amazing things that have happened during this. You know, the 7 o'clock hand banging in New York to thank the medical teams of people that are risking their lives every day. The acts of kindness, the people checking in on the seniors and shopping for them. You know, there's the lists are just endless. But we were talking too about, you know, we need a good news channel like John Krasinski's doing, but we need a lot of that on a global level because so many beautiful things are happening around the world, and we need to acknowledge them. So and acknowledge. Yesterday on Easter, Andrea Bocelli did a solo concert at the cathedral in Milan. Talk about truth bumps. Oh my God, it was just amazing. Of course, the place was empty, but they showed Italy, they showed Milan and the empty streets, but the beauty of the country and the architecture. And it's like, it just made you want to go, God, I want to go there. I want to do that. I can't right now. But yeah. So let the arts inspire us. Let the arts refuel us. Go out and consume them. A lot of artists are hurting right now, big time, especially if they perform and they go to public places like concert halls and theaters. Everybody's out of work. So be sure and support your local artist when you can go back out. And it's a two-way, it's a give-give. You're going to give to them by supporting them, but you're going to get a lot of back by consuming art and letting it infuse you. So don't forget your artists, and don't forget how important the arts are in our lives.
Everyone, I really hope you rewatch and re-listen to this and listen to it with your heart versus your ears. I think Rod held a space for us all today and shared not one, but many profound things about whether you're involved in the arts, you support the arts currently, ways to do that, ways to draw creativity and inspiration from them, ways to form community and allow them to be a healing vehicle, and ways to just, you know, take that and heal and come to closer together as a community. I love when he spoke about how the earth and nature is speaking to him, and that for all of us to learn to listen better, it's just to be. It's to be still, to be present, to be quiet. In a world that has, up until now, been so busy, go, constant, never ending, 24/7. And even then, that's not enough time. Where sometimes we've learned to feel guilty if we go to bed, if we haven't clocked 14, 15, 18 working hours. Where we've learned to feel like failures if we're not doing it all and then having the material things to show for it. Where we've learned to feel like a lack of talent because we're not the top of this, or we're a lack of this, or we're just not enough, or not good enough. What a crazy and a beautiful concept to maybe, instead of trying to excel at all those other things that we once attached meaning to, what if we just tried to excel at being kind? What if we tried to excel at just stilling ourselves and listening more, going within and asking of ourselves one simple question: how can we be kinder today? How can we be kinder, whether it's helping literally the little old lady across the street, or it's asking ourselves, how can we serve our customer base better? How can we support those who may need to support? What are the opportunities in your life to be kind? And I think that, remember, one of the things that we can all learn from the arts is that there are storytellers. Our history, our very nature, your family genealogy, it's all built on stories.
Right.
And we're going to probably need and crave those stories more than ever to pull us back to a place of community connection. So, Rod, this has been absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for blessing us with your presence today and sharing. And this has been absolutely incredible. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for doing this. I know a lot of people are going to get a lot out of all the great wisdom that you share always. So thanks for being the catalyst and making this happen.
Absolutely. We'll see everybody next time on another edition of A Handful of Hope. Bye-bye.